Look at this, yo. Look at him. This is Chicago's favorite son right here.
Oh, something like that. At least this week.
Yes.
That whole best bartender thing. But
yeah.
the sheen on that is already going away. You know, it was like really cool when you first get that announcement, and it's like, yeah, so what?
You know what? I'm still soaking in it for you because welcome to Red River Podcast. Mike Vanderbilt, man. So I've been
do you need me to record anything on my end?
No. I mean,
okay,
I don't think so. Yeah, we'll be fine. So I love the Halloweenies podcast. So there was a one time where me and that dude Mike Moran were on a podcast together, remember? And like we were supposed to do one, and I was like, I'm like, I fucking love this dude. I couldn't wait, and then like for some reason like your scheduling was off and it didn't happen. So
well, as you can see from our text thread, I was very particular about making sure that I got the Eastern and Central time zones set, because that has messed me up on more than one occasion, and I should be good at it by now. And Eastern and Central aren't that hard to do, but I'll still fuck it up sometimes.
Yeah, it's an hour, and it's funny because who did I do that with? We had on Sergey from the band Sam I Am, and it was the same thing. Like he's like on the West Coast. He's like, holy shit, I have no idea. I thought I was like, like he was off by like almost like 12 hours. We had on Anthony Hickox, the director.
Oh, my favorite, one of my absolute favorites.
Really?
I've never gotten to speak to him, but he is somebody who I would love to chat with one day. Like, I'm really hoping we get to do Waxwork on Halloweenies one day, because that's one of my absolute favorites.
Okay, so here's the funny thing, right? So I wanted to talk to him, and we're a bunch of nobodies, but I knew somebody who knew him. So I was like, can I get his email? And he's like, yeah, no worries. Like, he put me in touch with someone, and he gave the okay. He's like, yeah, give him my email. So he's in Romania right now, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, holy shit, because like just like you, Waxwork, even today, it still really holds up. It holds up.
I screened it as I programmed a double feature at the Music Box of Horrors drive-in this year with House of Wax, the Paris Hilton one.
Yes, I remember that post. Yeah.
House of Wax up first, Waxwork up second, and most of the crowd was there for House of Wax, which is a pretty good.
It's pretty decent.
It's pretty. That second half is great. Yeah, very imaginative. So, but nobody'd seen Waxwork, and most of it, I'd say 75 to 80% of the cars stuck around. And when it ended, the drive-in showings that I've been at for that, I'd never heard a response of just honking at the end of that movie. Because like for guys like us, Waxwork seems like, everybody saw Waxwork, right?
Yeah.
But for people a little bit younger than us, that's a deep cut, and it truly delivers, like you said.
Yeah, it really does. Like, because I knew we were gonna have him on all this other shit, and I dipped into his catalog, and I watched that and the sequel. And these movies are just like, I mean, the only thing that stunts the sequel is probably the budget, because the imagination was there, and
the lack of Deborah Foreman.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, I think there was a story behind that too, for sure. But so funny story about him was we talked all this shit. We talked some cool, we had him on for like an hour, mad cool. He talked about his Steven Seagal movie, which he directed. And
which one was that?
He did a movie in 2005 called Submerged with Seagal.
Oh yeah, that was long after I tuned out of Seagal.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because we all tuned out like probably once. So we remember that straight to video was the kiss of death, because we're all basically the same age. So once those guys started releasing stuff that I think was like post like Under Siege, like somewhere around like 99.
Glimmerman. I think Glimmerman might be the last one that I cared about.
Okay. Yeah. So this was like
right around that time.
This was like years after, and Anthony said that after making that movie, he told such a great story too. After making the movie, that he wanted to quit directing. That's how hard it was to deal with Seagal. And I was just like, couldn't, to me, like I wasn't goading him, but like you always hear these stories about what it's like to work with him, and it, because we're big, on Stern. Like you're a Stern guy, right?
Yes. Kinda? Baba Booey to you all.
Thank you very much. But like when Rob Schneider was on, he tells that story. And
I don't know if I know this one.
Oh, it's so funny. So like Rob Schneider was on, he was telling all these really funny Seagal movies. stories, and one of them was that he went into his trailer and he was reading something, and he looks up at Rob Schneider. He's like, I just read the best script I've ever read in my life. And he was like, who wrote it? He's like, I did. And it was just such a funny thing that, like, to this day, like when I'm at band practice and like we write a song that I love, like my bass player, like is just like, let me guess, you wrote the greatest song ever. You just heard it. So, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, Anthony Hickok's episode got lost because I never hit record.
Oh,
yeah. I know. Yeah.
Similar case. I did that Epic Film Guys podcast 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
The reason I was like, when you guys, I got right on the horn with you, I asked if I needed to record anything because I didn't record my track, and they don't record a backup.
Oh.
So I said, send me your tracks, guys. I dropped them into GarageBand, and I just kind of tried to recreate what I thought I might have said.
Oh, wow. So what happened?
It worked.
But what, how did they lose your track?
There never was one. They should have not badmouth them or anything. They should have reminded me as we were starting to record to hit record on my GarageBand, but they didn't. They were just kind of rushing to get into it because they don't record a Zoom. They use like a different.
Oh.
And so like with Halloweenies, we record a Zoom track, but then everybody records a GarageBand track, and then somebody edits it together. And because GarageBand track just sounds a little bit better. I can't tell the difference, but in a pinch, we at least have the Zoom track.
No, and I used to, before we started doing Zoom, I used to do it on GarageBand. Like we would hang out. Like this show really just started with me and Brian up there hanging out. Like he's got all that paraphernalia for sure. Like we would just go.
I'm noticing the Ultimate Warrior wrestling.
Oh yeah,
because I had a Hulk Hogan one.
Nice, yeah,
sure. I thought those were the coolest things. And somebody on my Twitter feed just got a Knicks player, like because they made basketball ones too, and I think he paid a lot of money for it, but it was like that thing that he wanted since he was a kid, and now he's grown, so he got it.
Yep,
that's him.
That's the way to go.
He got My Pet Monster over there somewhere too,
yeah.
right?
We had a My Pet Monster growing up, and I think he got lost in a flood or something because my sister definitely ended up buying a new one for herself.
My friend Frank, who lives in San Diego, he actually called me, and it was at a flea market, and he found one still in the box.
Holy mackerel.
Completely unopened. And he goes, this guy wants $100 for it. Is that a good price? I said, fucking buy it, ship it, whatever you need me to do to fucking get that thing.
I remember.
I was gonna say $100. That's good. That's fair.
Yeah.
So when we first started doing the podcast, one of the funniest things that he had, I remember the first episode. Do you remember what it was? That thing that you showed me? It was Saw. It was Saw.
Oh, the dental floss.
He has dental floss from Saw.
Saw.
It was a promo.
Saw 3. Yeah, Saw 3 dental floss because I was at Monster Mania one year, and I sat down next to the director, and I had no clue who he was. And we just started.
Who is that? Is that Darren Bousman guy?
Yeah, and we just started bullshitting. And I guess rather than like giving me his business card, he gave me some dental floss. I was like, "Oh, cool, man! I'll check it out."
That was great. But it's funny. So the Epic Films guys, those guys are fucking great. We know
Trip. I liked them. I had a good time with them guys.
Yeah, they like that dude. I think his name's Justin. Like he put he put together. You know, like we're a slacker podcast. Like the shit that he created, it's just like, I'm like, wow, you really put some time into this, and they do very well. So
that's the thing. That's what was great about Halloweenies is that I just kind of came in on the back end. So I got to do my research and I got to record. There's no editing or any of that other, but the research is a lot of work, but like, I'd rather do that than have to, because Windy City, I edit, but I do very little.
Oh, Windy City. Yeah.
Yeah. I drop the music in and I cut out the parts where I sound stupid.
Well, I used to do that.
But I leave the parts in when Adam does.
But so Windy City is a cool concept. Like tell us exactly what Windy City is, right? It's like
so the Windy City double feature picture show
is a double feature.
Was a podcast that, so during the pandemic, I started talking to this guy, Adam Carson, who I'd never met before. I never met him in person. And this guy, you know who Mike McPadden is, the author of
yeah,
movie
for
Hell,
sure. Yep.
Heavy Metal movies. Yep. He was friends with Adam. He was friends with me. And he told Adam, you need to hook up with this Mike Vanderbilt guy. Because I think Mike McFadden was tired of the two of us like bothering him. Because he was like, you're about 10 years older than me. So he was like a cool uncle that you could talk to and whine about stuff and ask for advice. And he put us together. And Adam's like, well, I had this concept. And then he pitched it to me. And I was like, well, I think we can streamline this and turn this into something. And then we did. And it's great. And we finally met in person. We started recording in, October of 2020. I think we finally met in August of 2021, like in person. And that's weird, but I really do enjoy doing the show because it's we pick a double feature that played the Chicagoland area and then give a little history of the theater, the movies, and what else was playing around town, what else was going on in Chicago at that time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that concept. But Halloweenies to me. So when Justin and Mackenzie, right? I forget the other guy's name.
It's Justin, Mackenzie, Mike Rothman,
Mike,
Dan Caffrey, the heart of the Halloweenies podcast.
When they started doing it, like for me, Halloween is like my favorite franchise. It's just it's just great. Like when I look at pound for pound the movies that I enjoyed the most, aside from 5, which is offensive, and 8, which is arguably the worst horror movie sequel of all time. But even 5 still has some redeemable qualities.
5 is better than 8, no question.
No question, because there's still some things about 5 where it's like,
they're trying to keep up with the mythology. And I mean, I've talked about it. I talked about it on a little bit on the Confessional Pod, where I like that concept of the Man in Black.
Me too.
Before I really know all the Thorn stuff, it's just this, who is this guy? It's cool. It's weird. The prison breakout is great. I don't want to say it's squandered in 6 because 6 isn't bad. 8, to your point, 8 is the worst.
But 6, I'm a 6 apologist because I feel like even though everything didn't land in 6, I feel like they did the best they could with the mess that they were left with in 5.
Oh, I absolutely agree with it. And I kind of miss those days where when you're doing a horror sequel where you had to kind of see what they did the last time and you would try to, squeeze into that mythology versus now where it's like, oh, we're just going to do a whole new thing, throw that all out the window.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think at a certain point they worked themselves into a corner, obviously, where they couldn't really, continue. And I get it.
That's something I love about the Phantasm movies is that, and it's because they're all Don Coscarelli except for the last one, but Coscarelli was involved, where the ending is always like daring himself. Well, how are you going to get your characters out of it this time?
Yeah.
He's challenging himself. And I always appreciated that.
I love, like, I'm late to the Phantasm stuff. Like that was a franchise that I went into probably in the last few years. And to me, like the third one is my favorite, but Parker, you're a Phantasm guy, right?
I'm a Phantasm 2. I love, when I first saw that 4-barrel shotgun, I was like, holy shit, let's party, man.
Absolutely. I think 3 is my favorite sequel, but the first remains my favorite of the series, but they're all pretty good.
Yeah. So, you join Halloweenies and then I think there's like 4 seasons. I know that you wanted to talk about kind of the 5th season, which is going to be The Evil Dead. And I got to ask you, so to me, like I see Parker wearing that sweatshirt. I never really considered Evil Dead 2 a sequel because I feel like it's kind of like it's the same story retold, but it's just it's a perfect movie. I think like we did like a poll and I think we all basically said that might've been the greatest, horror movie of, maybe we picked 87. I don't remember what it was. And 87 was a banging year, but like, do you consider Evil Dead 2 like a sequel?
So when I was a kid, like I would, and even today, it's kind of fun to, like we were talking about, do backflips essentially to get the mythology to work when you're dealing with horror sequels. So yeah. I always liked the concept of, because when it started, Evil Dead 2 was supposed to be a direct sequel, but they weren't able to get the rights to show the footage of the original Evil Dead in their film. Because I think they were tied up probably with New Line Cinema, and they were doing that through Renaissance Films with Dino De Laurentiis. So they couldn't get the right, which is why they added all that stuff with, and then they kind of streamlined it. They didn't make it a group of college kids. They made it Ash and his girlfriend. Because if you were to edit Evil Dead and into Evil Dead 2 and cut out all that stuff, it works as one continuous, very long movie. Okay. I think so. I do consider it to be a true sequel, but it was funny you mentioned that because we'll probably end up talking about this on the show. I got to find this. There's a Twitter account out there. I'm going to name it. I'm going to find it right now because they're called Darkverse7. It's called Official The Evil Dead Web, and they are. You want to talk about a hill to die on? They are advocates that the original Evil Dead is a standalone film, that Ash died at the end of the original film, and that everything else that came after that is in another universe, and that it's not a sequel. So I think they're more in line with you guys' theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much of a well thought out theory. It's just like I always given the two, I always go to two, and I think Army of Darkness is fucking brilliant.
Still so good.
It's so goddamn good. When he turns into all those little ashes, which then later on they do in Ash vs. Evil Dead, which is also I remember going to Brooklyn when Videology was open, and they did a screening of Army of Darkness, and then they played the first 2 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead, or maybe it was the first episode. And you're always apprehensive. You're always thinking how are they going to turn this into a show? And we watched the first episode, and I'm like, yo, this is fucking perfect. It's so good. I don't know what you thought of the show, if you liked it or not.
The show didn't do it for me. I didn't stick with it, if only because and because as you know, you mentioned this year on Halloweenies, we're diving into the Evil Dead series. Last year we did the Scream series. This is, of course, building up to Evil Dead Rise, the latest film in the franchise. And, we're going to dive into everything, including the television show and the game. We're still figuring out how we're going to do the TV show. If we're going to do
is true
as one episode. But for me, there was a lot of stuff I did enjoy about the TV show. But what I didn't like is I did not like that they made Ash so unlikable in the TV show, because he's a loudmouth in the third one. But if you consider the theory that it's all that it's not a remake, that 1, 2, 3 all kind of follow this guy who's basically having a long weekend where he ends up time traveling. You kind of see him grow from kind of a candy ass into a hero who realizes the only thing he's ever been good at is killing deadites. And thank God that he figured it out. So then by the time you open on the series, he's just horribly unlikable. I think they just kind of accentuated the worst qualities of the character that I didn't like. And I realized that I'm talking about a silly TV series that is a sequel to 3 kind of silly horror movies, but it was how some people feel about The Last Jedi, I imagine.
Oh, well, I'm not even going to get into that because
let's not. Nobody ever needs to talk about Star Wars ever again.
Yeah, pretty much. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, but so I'm going to look forward to basically listening to you talk about the series, and because I guess you're going to have to do a rewatch or watch the whole thing, right?
Well, it's funny because I'm terrible about managing my time. I was stressed out all last week because I thought we were recording the episode covering the Evil Dead last Saturday morning, and we weren't. But I'm also a week ahead on my notes now because we're recording it next Saturday. Yeah. So I watched it 3 times. I watched the original film 3 times last week, and when do you think this episode's going to air?
Actually, so I just I don't ever bank anything. We had a few things just drop, but I'll put it out sometime this week because I'm going to be away. I'm going to New Orleans on Sunday.
Oh
yeah, New Orleans. But I'm also going to be watching Jawbox in Baltimore on Saturday, the day before I leave.
And you got a full week.
Not even. Then I'm playing 2 solo shows in New Jersey. So I got to figure. I got to manage maybe Saturday morning. I'll put it out. Basically sometime this week.
So you'll be out before the episode airs, but I don't want to reveal too much about what I'll talk about that original Evil Dead film, but I do think it is one of the great American movies.
Yeah.
That original film.
Yeah,
and my favorite of the series.
Okay. Yeah. So for sure. I just wanted to touch upon that and basically let people know, the deal. What I really also do want to talk about is my love of Mr. Skin, which you were a part of. So as
Yes,
a big Stern fan, I mean, because like me and Brian, what do you always say whenever we bring up a movie? You're like,
if it's got great nudity or not.
yeah, that's it. Great nudity.
And you guys, if you listen to the show, you follow me on Twitter, everybody knows my adoration for the golden age of pornography of the 1970s going into the 80s. So yeah, I did. I was freelancing for Mr. Skin for a minute. I got in there. Of course, Mike McPadden was a big part of that. He was very good friends with Jim McBride, or as he just referred to him as Skin. I did an interview with them both for Daily Grindhouse, which I'll send you guys. Which was
that'd be great. Yeah,
it kind of goes into the how Mr. Skin started. You know what the film that kind of kickstarted Mr. Skin was?
No,
Bobby Joe and the Outlaw, which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's got Marjo Gortner, the former child preacher. It's directed by Mark L. Lester, who did Class of 1984, Class of 1989, Firestarter. But it's notable because Linda Carter, Wonder Woman herself, bears her big naturals in there. And let me say, they are impressive.
Yes.
And Jim McBride said that's the movie that kind of set him over the edge. That's what kind of started his note when he started doing his notebook of where he chronicled all the nude scenes in film. So when I was writing for him, this is of course later in the game, this was a couple years ago, and I was also writing for Mr. Man. And it does sound like a dream job where you're just watching nudity, but even as a writer, it's hard. And that's a Mr. Skin joke.
Hey,
it's hard to come up with countless variations on how to say dick, balls, boobs, and pussy. Because they had a very specific style guide. That's the thing about Mr. Skin. If anybody out there reads Mr. Skin, and I recommend you do, it's a great website, and is that the style guide described it as having a Nick at Night kind of quality, kind of a Mad Magazine quality. Well, you didn't want to be too sleazy or too like a Tex Avery Wolf with the tongue rolling out. Like you had to have a sense of humor about it, and it had to be just a little bit silly to kind of help the medicine go down. And it was hard. It was hard doing it, and I just I eventually just kind of tuned out on it. But I often think, I was like, man, I wonder if the editor's still over there. I wonder if I can go back there and make a couple extra bucks writing for Mr. Skin. Because I do love putting that on my resume because it just seems so appropriate for
because it's like for a child of Stern like me, like I just remember that, like it was just and another thing too, whenever you say the phrase Stone Cold Fox, that's what I think of, because he would always say that. He would always say Stone Cold Fox, and then he would say like fun bags, or like he would always have like certain names that you would call like whatever they're showing.
Oh yeah, well yeah, there was such a specific kind of style of speaking, and Mike McPadden, it was a big part of that because McBride recruited him from Chicago or from New York to bring him to Chicago to write from his skin. The late Mike McPadden, I should mention.
Yep.
And he was a big Stern fan too, and he just had that, like you said, that specific style. And he said, as a fan of Stern, it was a dream to write for Mr. Skin.
We just did our favorite raunchy comedies episode as well too. Like what was like one of your films, Parker?
One of my most notable was Hamburger, the motion picture.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
There was this kind of, even though neither one, that one had to do at a hamburger stand though, right?
Hamburger, it was like a hamburger college.
University, university, yeah.
And then there was fast food, which was at a hamburger stand, and then they had this special sauce that made you horny.
Yes. That was the best. Yeah, I love that shit, man.
That was Tracy Lords. Tracy Lords was in that.
Was she of age yet?
I think at that point she was, and she doesn't get naked, so I don't even know why I wasted my time watching it.
Because I was always mad that Hot Dog the movie had nothing to do with hot dogs.
Yes.
It's all about skiing. My favorite, and actually this is thanks to Mike McPadden, he turned me on to this one. Screwballs from Canada.
Yes. Yep.
Jim Wynorski, no?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh no, he wrote it.
That one's actually very funny. I think sharper than your average one. But as far as like the big ones, nothing's ever going to top my love of Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah. That was my number one, actually.
I still think I know I don't even want to get into, because I feel if I have one issue with Revenge of the Nerds, or at least bringing it up, I know I don't have to worry about it with you guys, is that every time I do bring up Revenge of the Nerds,
we're animals.
Is that somebody has to bring up that scene.
Yeah.
We know the scene we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what? It exists. It was there. Maybe it's in bad taste, but like Mike McPadden always said, like these movies never were there to encourage you to go out and act like these characters. You were laughing at the bad behavior of these characters, and I don't like that. And I don't want to sound like a generational warrior or anything, but the Zennials especially seem to get very moralistic when it comes to sex stuff.
Yeah, and which is funny because we were the sexual people. We were like the fucking left liberal fucking loving, like we were like the most embracing of that, you know? And it's like when you watch Revenge of the Nerds, like we all grew up with these movies and I feel like we're pretty fucking normal. You know, like
I think that movie's funny. I am never gonna conduct a panty raid.
Never.
And I never, after watching Revenge of the Nerds at 6, 7, 8 years old, never said, yes, that's okay. I never, I never even crossed my mind.
Never.
So it goes back to, who was it? Robert Mapplethorpe did I think in the 90s, he did a art installation, probably, I think in New York, where he had a bunch of pictures of naked kids, right? But it was nothing sexual about naked kids, and people protested it because, you know, they considered it to be pornography. And his point that he was making, and I love this, well, if that's what you see when you see those photos, then you need to look into yourself and ask, why are you thinking this? Because this is just photography. This is just the human form.
Hell yeah. I mean, most things are just jokes, and that's how we grew up. But like I'm saying, like we have, like the shit that I was renting from a video store at like age 9, 10, like I was just like, you would be horrified. Like I'm watching like, you know, blood-sucking freaks and like Psychos in Love and like just nasty shit. And a movie that I did mention for raunchy, which never gets the love, is Stewardess School. I love that movie. You ever see that movie?
That one, that I'll put that one on my list. I did finally watch Private Lessons.
Okay.
With Sylvia Kristel for the first time.
The Private Trilogy.
Yeah, that's a gem. That's actually a gem.
So Private Lesson, Private School, and one that I threw on my list, which was Private Resort, which had Johnny Depp.
That's Johnny Depp. Yes.
And, yeah. That movie rules. It's so fucking like the beginning of the movie is just so sex crazed and ridiculous. And my girlfriend's 8 years younger, and she's like, "What the fuck is this?" I was like, "This is what you."
Is this what you guys did back then? Is this what you guys thought was funny?
This is what.
But I will say, with some of the moralism we were talking about, it's like you either die a hero or you live long enough to become Tipper Gore, right? Because that's what people forget about. What people forget about the 80s is that it wasn't the Republicans or the conservatives, it was the Democrats and it was the liberals. And I think that's why free speech is always an interesting topic when you're discussing something like Two Live Crew in the 90s, which we talked about on my Playboy podcast recently. I feel like the pendulum has swung the other way recently, where people have come to terms with the fact that, you know, speaking specifically of the teen sex comedies, right, is that was a thing. It happened. It was a place and time. We don't need to keep harping about it. It exists. Either you like them or you don't. And if you do like them, write about what you like about them.
Yep. Yeah. For most things, it's like, if you like something, watch it. If you don't, then just, you know, same thing like with Stern. Like it was like Stern all over again. Like even when people talk about like Rogan or whatever, it's like, all right, well then, first of all, the only people that haven't had an issue with Stern are the people that didn't really like it. They weren't fans. So it's like, it's weird.
My mother used to watch, we used to get WWR here in Chicago.
Oh, that was the shit.
So my uncle turned us on to Stern. My mom was letting me watch Stern at like, I had no idea what was going on. I will admit, so I listened to him constantly on Sirius because I have it in the car.
Me too.
And I do cringe when they go back to some of those 80s and 90s episodes, because I'm just of the mind where, you know, him and this crew of weirdos are deciding whether a woman is a 5 or a 10. Like, these guys all need to look in the mirror. Who the hell are they?
Yes.
But, you know, Stern's another one. He grew up and he changed. And I mean, he's a little dull now. I think he gets a little too much into that the COVID thing about staying at home.
Yeah,
but
right.
when he's good, he's still good.
Yeah.
I like everybody who's on there now. Sal's a little bit annoying because
Yeah.
I think Sal knows what he's doing. I don't think Sal's as stupid as he lets on, and I think that is all a character.
I said the fucking same shit. I told, because my girlfriend just got into the show when we got a new car and she has Sirius in it, and she just got into it maybe within the last 2-3 years. And that's what I say. I'm like, Sal's cool. It's like, but it's like all shtick. Like, to me, Richard is the shit because he's so
Richard's
genuine.
authentic.
He's authentic.
Richard is real. But I do like when they work together. And Sal's stuff is funny, but it doesn't feel. What I like about Stern is when they're being honest. And I feel like the Sal stuff where he mispronounces words.
Yep.
Or when I just listened to the clip where they hypnotized him and he thought his cock was gone. Like, he's acting up because he knows he gets
my cock is gone. Yeah, no.
And it's funny. It's funny, but you know who, I know you guys know who my absolute favorite part of Stern is, though.
Geez, is it a whack packer?
Of course it's a whack packer.
All right. I mean, to me, the most genuine whack packer, it's either Beetlejuice or Bigfoot or Tan.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
I fell in love with Beetlejuice when I first saw him on the E! Show.
Yep.
And started seeing him in movies because I honestly believe, because that's something that comes up with Stern that I have to reconcile with people who don't necessarily get it. Like, is Stern exploitive? And I think it's an interesting, especially with the Whack Pack. And it's interesting to look at it because I don't, on one hand, maybe, but on the other hand, a lot of these guys might be dead if they didn't go on Stern and find a means to make money. And with somebody like Beetlejuice, who is mentally impaired in some way, but when he's on, he knows when he's making people laugh. I think he's kind of an outsider artist because when he gets going, he knows that everybody's entertained and laughing at what he's saying. And I don't know, it's not like laughing at him. They are kind of laughing with him because he knows he's being funny. I don't know if he necessarily knows why he's being funny.
Yeah. And I think they have a love for him on the staff for sure. Definitely. Maybe not even Howard, because Howard probably doesn't deal with him, but like everyone else that has him on the road and stuff like that, there is that genuine thing for sure.
Well, I always say, like, because there's countless clips of him on YouTube. That was one of the things that helped me get through the pandemic. I would just watch Beetlejuice clips before I went to bed during stay at home.
Spell red.
And because like when Stern's with him, like Stern, I mean, because it's a testament to Stern being such a great interviewer. When Stern's talking to Beetlejuice, he seems like he's genuinely interested in what's going on. Whereas when it's like clips of just Sal hanging out with Beetlejuice, I feel like there's a mean-spiritedness to it that I don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
And I do the Instagram stuff that Bobby Rooney puts up. Just my bartending partner Ashley just crack up at that stuff.
Yeah,
I'll show her like, oh, look at this one's a good one. It's going, And now at work all the time, it's we're talking about something. What do you think about that? Cool B.
Yeah, totally.
Good for you.
It's funny for people like us, like, our co-host or our second co-host who could make it today, Langan, but we are like pop culture sponges. So a lot of times we do have those like quotes that like no one will get, but it's funny to us. Like whenever we say like, I don't know, like pots and pans, like you think of toy soldiers, but like most normal people just, it's like, nah, but like, it's just like, we're pop culture sponges. And that's why we wanted to have a podcast to do dumb shit like this. So,
oh, it's great. I love what you guys are doing here. I love the casual. I love the casual podcast. It's one of my favorites because I think that's something that comes up with Halloweenies a lot is that people like us because it reminds them of hanging out with their friends and talking about movies. I think we get a lot of messages from people who it helped them get through the pandemic where you couldn't hang out with your friends. So just listening to these, 4 or 5 ding dongs talk about it, and you want to get in on the conversation.
Absolutely. Especially when you guys get to Halloween, Hollow Green. So that's one, and that's one in particular where like my friend Anthony, who's been on the show too, he was like, he's like, these cocksuckers are shitting on this movie so hard. Right? I know you guys got a lot of blowback on that one, right?
Every once in a while. I'll go like, I'll Google the podcast and I'll see what people are saying on Reddit and stuff. And there hasn't been a lot lately. And I wasn't on the Halloween episode. I'm still the new guy on Halloween.
Oh, no. I thought, okay, because I thought they did that one later on. I didn't know.
I did Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills. Okay.
And I was the only one. I mean, I actually gave it a positive review, but for all the wrong reasons. I gave it 3 stars because
yes.
I feel like it is a new camp classic because I've never really liked the term "it's so bad it's good." If it's good, it's good, right? Very few films actually fit squarely in that it's so bad that it's good. Halloween Kills is a film that is so bad it's good because I believe they actually believe that they're making a statement with this stuff. Trauma, and they just fall so short of it. And I'm a big fan of David Gordon Green and Danny McBride because I love Righteous Gemstones.
Okay.
But I think their worlds, they create, Danny McBride has that uncanny valley dialogue. Nobody talks like people talk in a Danny McBride production. And David Gordon Green and him have this way of melding that hyper violence with that hyper reality and this uncanny dialogue where it creates this own universe. So when you try to shoehorn the Halloween mythos into that, it doesn't work. But when it's your own thing that you created, like the Righteous Gemstones, that it's 100%.
Yeah, I gotta say, like the one thing in particular that I want to talk about Kills as well, but also like listening to the Halloweenies, that episode kind of hurt my feelings about 2018 because I was like so excited for it, but I was excited for it the way like I was excited for The Force Awakens. I was like, this seems like an actual Star Wars movie, and I'm like, it's just great to go back to these characters after the Rob Zombie remakes and fucking Resurrection, so and then someone brought up about H2O, and I was like, wait a minute, I was like, is it better than H2O? Because it just made me reevaluate, and I watched H2O again. I was like, yeah, this is actually pretty fucking good, because I didn't really love H2O in theaters, but as I watched it through the years, the first half of that movie is pretty goddamn good.
H2O is not without its charms. It's definitely scream exploitation. I was excited for it when I saw it at the show. And I don't know if you guys know that, but in Chicago, we don't say we went to the movies, we went to the show. So if you ever hear me say that, that's like this weird piece of Chicago vernacular.
Yeah.
And I liked it enough. It's 80. My problem with it is that it's 80 minutes and it does seem to drag a little bit. But H2O, and you've probably heard me say this, has the best ending of any slasher movie.
Yeah.
I think in existence.
Yeah.
Because everybody who was on the playground when we were kids, when you talk about Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, how do you kill him? Why doesn't anybody cut their head off? And they finally do it, and then they fuck it all up in the next one. They pull it back. They give you exactly what you want. Because the Halloween sequels, as bad as they all are, I really don't like any of the Halloween sequels. I can't call them good movies. They're not without their qualities. But all the Halloween sequels have great endings.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah,
Except maybe Curse. Curse's ending isn't great.
Yeah, but I mean, are we talking producer or
either one? Like they're both fine because neither one of them make a lick of sense. But 5's a great ending, 4's a great ending, 3's a great ending, 2's a great ending. H2O is the best ending. So is it better than Halloween 2018? I don't know. I saw Halloween 2018 when it premiered at Fantastic Fest, the North American premiere, and I was excited for it because I was like, okay, look, how can it be worse?
Yeah,
than any of the other sequels that have come. And comparing it to The Force Awakens, I like Force Awakens, although
me too.
Looking back on that trilogy, all the new Star Wars movies are C+ to B-. They're all good. They're all pretty good.
Do you like them better than the prequels, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
They feel more like Star Wars.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That's I bring it up all the time on the podcast because I said the prequels came out at a time where I was just too busy being like an early 20-year-old, and after watching those 3 movies, I was like, I think I'm over Star Wars. Those prequels knocked me out.
Here's my story about Phantom Menace. I was dating this girl, so I'm 19 years old, jazzed. Like I grew up with Star Wars. Star Wars was in my blood. My mom loved it, so she got me into it. So I can't wait. I can't believe it's finally happening. I see the special editions of the show. I went and got the tickets. We went down into McClurg Court, downtown Chicago, the THX Theater, And my girlfriend at the time, Kathy, we watched all the movies on Laserdisc. She'd never seen them before, prepping for this event. And we go see it. We're walking out of the theater. And she looks at me, and I'm just kind of walking, and I have that confused look on my face that I have sometimes. And she just looks at me, and I'll never forget it. She says, "You didn't like it, did you?" I said, "I don't think that I did." I still went and saw it 2 more times, and I still, I mean, it's fine, I guess. But I remember she took me to see The Mummy that week. That Mummy came out that week too. And it's like, here, I'm going to make it up to you. And The Mummy, I love. I still love that.
Original. No, that's great. It just, but that's what it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think we all did that. You have this adoration for these things, and you're like, holy shit, it's finally here, and I remember by the time they got to the race, I was like, it was.
Oh yeah, that was the worst.
I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here. I'm like, but like when you walk out, you're like, I don't know if that was good, but it's almost like it doesn't compute to you. You're like, it's a Star Wars movie. It's the 4th one. I'm like, why don't I fucking love this? And I get the confusion.
Even funnier, I remember I was whining about it to my mother, who, kind of gave it a pass. She thought it was fine. It was cute or whatever. And she says to me, I'll never forget, this is a true story. She says, well, they can't just remake the first one. And I said to her, I'd be happy if they did. And then they did with The Force Awakens.
They did, yeah.
So I got my wish.
Yeah, take that, Mom. They did.
Solo's the best one. Solo's the best Disney Star Wars anyway. We all know that.
So here's something that they came out just recently that I don't know if you loved, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So that's what I was on for Epic Film Guys.
Oh, okay.
And I watched it twice, and I thought about it. There's a lot of good ideas. If it was a slasher movie, if it was the new slasher movie, completely new villain.
Yep.
It would probably be everybody's favorite slasher movie of the year. Unfortunately, it is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and it gets, even though it's trying to retcon the very messy franchise, I don't think thematically everything works, and in the end, the whole thing just feels soulless. Which I put it in the trap. I put it in a 2.5 stars. Not quite there. They waste the Sally character. The mask is ugly. The bus sequence is great. I like the mechanic character in town. I liked his relationship with the young girl in the school shooting. I
too.
Thought there was something to be said there, because I like when movies get a little bit murky with their politics.
Yes.
Where they kind of say, well, just because you feel this way is this. And I like that they made the kids, they should have made the kids more unlikable, because I think that's the point they were trying to make about these rich gentrifiers coming into towns and thinking that they can make everything better. And that ties in very well, I think, with the original film, because they were trespassing. Like, Leatherface is the hero of the first one. They didn't need to be sneaking around that house. He's just he's just a working man, working person, protecting his home.
Yeah, I mean, and same thing with this. It's like, it's almost like if you took these roles and made, like, Schwarzenegger Leatherface, it would be like, it would make sense. It's like, they came, they killed my fucking caretaker, I'm taking them all out, and we would be cheering. We'd be like, all right, get that.
But they never, like, you still don't feel like that anti-hero quality in him either, where I feel like you're really cheering for him.
It just doesn't.
I think it's all messy. And I think what the story's by Fede Alvarez, who I like.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Because I really like Don't Breathe. I haven't seen Don't Breathe 2 yet. And obviously in that film, they take the villain and turn him into some sort of anti-hero. I understand, despite what he did in the previous film. So I don't think it's impossible that you can do it. But I feel like something just got lost in the translation to the script and then to the screen.
And obviously the Evil Dead remake, which I love, and I can't wait to hear you guys talk about it. I think that's going to be an interesting and divisive episode. Yeah, for sure.
For everybody.
So a couple of other things here that I just wanted to bring up. If we can go back to the Mr. Skin thing, I'm going to bring you back into that universe. The most cinematic boobs of all time. I have 3.
I love to get inside of it.
I have 3. I don't know if Parker, you might have some, but so just one of the guys. Friday the 13th.
that's mentioned. That was a big one for Mike McPadden. Yeah, I'll have to send you guys over this interview I did with him for Daily Grindhouse because do you see the documentary about nudity in films that came out a couple years ago?
I feel like I must have, but I don't think so.
It's pretty good, and Mike McPadden's a talking head in it. Pretty good stuff.
So yeah, just one of the guys. Friday the 13th, Part 5, or Life Force. All right. So if you put them in order, those three: Life Force, Friday 5, and just one of the guys.
Well, I think Life Force might get number 1 because I think they're the biggest and the longest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no wrong answer here.
Yeah, let's say Life Force, Friday the 13th, Part 5, just one of the guys.
Okay. Parker, what about you? How'd you put those in order?
I would probably do just one of the guys, Fast Times at Ridgemont High still. And I gotta go striptease, man. I gotta go Demi Moore.
Wow. All right. I like that curveball.
You gotta truly, you guys gotta check out Bobby Joe and the Outlaw. That Linda Carter.
Yeah.
Primo.
Yeah.
Top notch.
For sure. Stone Cold Fox.
Stone Cold Fox without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And why is it if it's at the
you know what, another good piece, you know what, but I don't know if this counts, when the Freddy's the nurse in Part 3.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
There's the cut scene where she's wearing the mask but she's topless. That's a good one. That's at least memorable.
No, yeah, that's a good one. And also to shout out, hot women in these franchises. I want to give some love to the underrated Lisa Zane. I thought Lisa Zane, from Freddy's Dead.
The pigtails and the baby doll dress, that's so indicative of that era too. Of that, Freddy coming into the '90s with the grunge look. You know what? Another good pair of breasts in film, the Heavy Metal. They're animated.
Oh, okay.
The secretary from the So Beautiful, So Dangerous segment.
Nice.
Top notch.
What about top 3 penises in the show Euphoria? Parker, you start.
No.
I've seen. I tell you what, though, HBO's got the corner on Culkins and penises on TV between Succession, The Righteous Gemstones, and Euphoria. Because I saw there's a lot of penis on the Gemstones, which I appreciate. I almost feel like they're trying to make a comment about casual male nudity.
I think male nudity is definitely.
Though
sure.
HBO has been big on the penis for a while, because did you guys watch Oz?
Yeah.
I mean, that's OG penis right there.
So when I worked at Borders Books and Music, I worked with a couple older ladies who they watched Oz, and they on Wednesday nights, I think it'd be on, and they'd come in Thursday and they'd discuss who showed their cock, and they would, if somebody didn't, like, if it was covered up by a shadow or something, they would be so upset and motherfuck that guy so bad, calling him, he's scared, he's pussy, what's wrong with this guy? We wanted to see it. This is bullshit. Oh yeah.
There was definitely that is true. I thought you were going to say Dream On or something like that, but
nice.
Dream On was my favorite.
Dream On's the best. I mean, I
Sunday nights when I was a kid, Tales from the Crypt, Dream On, and if you were lucky, an episode of Real Sex with Annie Sprinkle on it.
Yeah. That's what. Seriously, I mean, we must have grown up in the same time for sure. Because to me, Martin Tupper, that was the shit right there. Like
for better or worse, I learned, or at least I assumed, what dating life was going to be from sitcoms about single men in New York City. From Dream On to Seinfeld to any number of NBC sitcoms from the 80s and 90s. Like, I always thought that's what life was like, just having sex with a new woman every week. And Martin Tupper had a cool place too. He had that cool loft with the exposed brick.
Yeah. Shout out to Eddie Charles.
Yeah.
Both of them. There were
two.
two.
I was about to say 1 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah. There was
I loved in the season premiere. I think about this more than I should, how, when he pulls, he went and got a surgery done in his eyes, the character, and he pulls off the thing and he looks at Martin Tupper and he's like, "Do you notice anything different?" And he goes, "No, not really." And it's a completely different actor. I just thought that was a very, was a very funny joke. It's just too bad. HBO, I mean, I don't know what rights are like that for streaming, because it's very hard to get the rights to all the old movies.
Yeah, but
home video, but streaming's different. Of course, everything's different. Streaming is different from television, which is different from cable, which is different from VHS. That's why, speaking of heavy metal, that's why that was tied up in red tape for so long, because so there's a lot of original rock and roll music on that soundtrack. So the soundtrack could be released on, they had the rights to it to release it on vinyl, release it theatrically, or it could go to television, which is why TBS would show it and Cinemax would show it. However, home video wasn't really a thing yet, so they didn't wrangle those rights. So the home video rights were kind of all tied up for years until they figured it out. Same thing with putting it out on CD, because it's a different medium. So despite streaming essentially being television, it's probably got to be negotiated all over again, where everybody gets there and everybody just wants their cut of the money, which I understand.
No, I completely get it. The other day I was watching fucking First and 10 on something.
Oh my God. That was Friday nights was Kids in the Hall and then First and 10. And I never liked football.
Me neither.
Watch football now, but I watched First and 10.
Yeah.
And it was such, I think I watched an episode somewhere and I was like, it's such a weird mix between that real slapstick comedy of the locker room, but then all the kind of high drama of the behind the scenes at the California Bulls.
Shout out to Bubba Kincaid. But it was streaming.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
For actually, that must have been the longest cinematic piss, right? I can't imagine anyone pissing longer than that. So.
That'd be a good list. The longest piece. Who gives him a run for his money? Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun.
Yes, that's
a good piece.
Jamie, look that up. Oh my God. So before we end this, I don't want to hijack you too long. I'd be an idiot if I didn't talk to you about Jason Goes to Hell. And
I knew it. I was like, I bet you they bring up Jason Goes to Hell. I love it.
Because you and I'm an apologist for, to me,
no apologies needed. You're just you're just right. You're right.
I'm a lover of Jason Goes to Hell. I think Parker, you hate it, right?
I take it over Jason X any day of the week.
Good.
Jason Goes to Hell also has, speaking of nice breasts, that opening scene. What was she, DEA or something like that shower scene? Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
that's classic. And you get two, because you get the Tony the Wonder Llama sequence where she gets cut in half with the. So actually, you get 4 breasts.
Yeah, I love it. There we go.
That's it. I mean, that's 4. But so I remember watching this, and as a fan of the movie The Hidden.
Yes.
A cable classic. Me and my mom, my sister watched that on cable. Must have been on HBO. It felt like it was on every other night growing up.
I think that was what, Jack Shoulder?
Yes, it was Jack Shoulder of Elm Street 2.
Yeah.
Shot by Jacques Hacken, who shot the original Nightmare on Elm Street. There's all sorts of cool stuff going on in that one. The Hidden's a gem.
The Hidden and The First Power were 2 of my favorite movies.
Yeah, good one.
I finally caught up with The First Power a couple years ago because it was hard to find. I think I found it on YouTube.
It's on Tubi.
Right?
It's on Tubi.
Is that on Tubi? The best horror streaming service.
Yeah, come on. Are you kidding me?
Mike Vanderbilt seal of approval on
Tubi is literally walking through the a video store in 96. It's everything that you never rented and wanted to is right there. You're Head of the Family. Oh, perfect.
It's a second runner up, but to really get the full experience, you need to subscribe. But it's I think it's an underrated one, is Midnight Pulp. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. Midnight Pulp is a terrific streaming service if you're into cult stuff.
Yeah.
And psychotronic film.
I'm in. But so anyway, so those 2 movies in particular made me I love The First Power. I as a kid, anything to do with a cult and Satan imagery, and then The Hidden I fucking love. So to me, Jason Goes to Hell is this is kind of an extension of it, but I completely understand why most people fucking hated it. But it's just so violent and so fucking stupid, and Creighton Duke, and it's just I don't know what it is. I could put it on and watch it over and over again.
I think, and I of course I talked about this on the Halloweenies episode, is the amount of imagination. Even if it's just ripping stuff off, it's stuff that's never been done in the Friday the 13th franchise before. And the franchise had wasn't running out of steam. It was basically on fumes at that point. And to have, the balls to say, we're going to make this straight up supernatural and we're going to introduce all this weird mythos. I think it's great. Now, I do often wonder if I saw it when I was, 23 and not 13, if I would have loved it as much. Like, yeah. I can't say, but I think it kind of shaped what I look for in movies, particularly in slasher sequels now, where when people talk about Friday the 13th and about, they're slowly moving to getting a new one. We might see one in our lifetime. Now that the lawsuit with Victor Salva and Sean Cunningham has been settled, everybody's talking about a back to basics approach. Why? We have the best back to basics Friday the 13th movie is The Final Chapter. That's got everything you need. That's the quintessential Friday the 13th movie. So why not do something weird or cool? I don't like Jason X, but Jason X has a good concept. It's not the concept that Farmer, what's the screenwriter, Todd Farmer, wanted to write a darker, more alien-like film, and they made it look like, Vivid presents Jason X.
Really did look like Vivid presents X.
Yeah.
It was like a porn without the penetration. It was just like, let's cut out the fucking.
Let's cut out the good stuff. Who wants to see that? Right? Come on. And I would rather send Jason, send us back to space, put him in a condo building, bring him to the big city, put him in the hood, all the places where
everywhere the leprechaun went.
Sequels go. Like just send them there. Give me something interesting. Give me something funny. Give me something. I don't want to say funny. Give me something clever. Give me something imaginative. Just don't do Jason in the woods again. And I know everybody's like, oh, we should have him in the snow. Like, yeah, fine, but it's still just Jason in the woods.
Yeah, it's just snow. But I wanted to share our love of that movie, and it's funny that you mentioned if you watched it in your mid-20s, how you would feel about it, because to me, anytime someone talks about one of your favorites, Black Christmas, that's how I feel. I didn't watch Black Christmas till probably like the late 2000s. We went to cinema, Nighthawk Cinema in Brooklyn.
I hosted a screening of The Astrologer at the Nighthawk. I don't know if I ever told you guys about that.
How awesome is that place?
The Nighthawk was great, and there was one review I did Friday and Saturday night showing that cult classic, The Astrologer, which I recommend. I think it's streaming free on YouTube now. Okay. It was really hard to find; like you couldn't see it anywhere. I showed it in Chicago. Kevin Marr. Do you guys know Kevin Marr?
The Kevin Geeks Out or something like that, right?
He says, "Well, I want you to bring Astrologer here," even though it wasn't mine. I was just renting it from AGFA. He goes, "So let's do it at Nighthawk," and I partied in Brooklyn that night. I went down to Brooklyn Brewing, and I hit every bar on the way back to the theater with John Abrams from Daily Grindhouse, my editor-in-chief. And there was one review of the evening. It was a positive one, but they mentioned the wildly intoxicated Mike Vanderbilt from Daily Grindhouse doing his presentation before the movie.
Yes.
Memorable moments that I don't remember in Brooklyn. So yeah, big fan of the Nighthawk.
I love that. So it's funny. So I'm going to sidestep real quick. My friend Frank Sabatella and Sean King, who's directing our new video, they just showed a movie called Boarding House there, which they're going to do in Chicago.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah.
We're showing Boarding House on March 9th. Very cool.
Yeah. That's we know them dudes, man. Mad, awesome. Like I said, that guy Sean, he's directing my band's new video. We already got it, so he just has to edit it. So
I can't wait to see it.
I'm sure it's gonna be great. I wanted to bring up what you said about
Black. You were talking about Black Christmas.
So watching it at an early age, I mean, it like in later, I was probably in my 30s. I just fucking hated it. I was just like, I wanted, like, I was like, okay, this is like the granddaddy, Bob Clark, all this other shit. And I just remember sitting there and it just didn't connect with me. But then I thought to myself, I'm like, what if I saw Halloween now for the first time? Like, I would probably think like, this is kind of like uneventful and boring and stuff. Like, Parker, did you like Black Christmas?
I've actually never seen it, believe it or not.
Okay. All right. So sign off real quick.
Yeah.
You're out of here.
Well, I like Black Christmas. I even liked that we did a Patreon episode on the 2019 one, which I liked. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
Well, I was trying to segue into my favorite Black Christmas, which is Black Xmas, which I know you guys did an episode on.
That's my least favorite of the three. That first one, I saw it in my early 20s, so it got under my skin. There was something about it. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, no, I get it, and that's what everyone says, and certain, sometimes things don't connect and stuff, like where I could say, like, some people talk about The Witch, and I think The Witch was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. But some people, like, they'll start masturbating if I mention The Witch.
Well, let's we can talk about this for a hot minute, because I don't know where my tastes lie necessarily, if you could call me a guy. Sometimes I think I'm very populist, but then I also like really kind of like low rent, like what some people would consider junk, like true psychotronic weird stuff.
Yeah.
And like I liked Hereditary.
Me too.
But I didn't like Midsummer. So when it comes to movies like The Witch, did I lose you guys?
No, I hear you. Parker, you're there, right?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay, we got
there
you.
we go.
Yep.
Okay. When we talk about like what people consider the elevator horror, this new kind of, for lack of a term, kind of art house horror, I do think there's a notion that there are people that just like that style. Horror is such a wide-ranging genre. There's all sorts of different types. There's trashy stuff. There's arty stuff. There's highbrow. There's lowbrow. And there's some people who just like everything. And go for them. I'm glad that they do. There's some people that just hate everything, that they can't enjoy anything. I like to think of myself as someone who just takes every movie as it is on its own. And like something like The Witch, it didn't necessarily speak to me. But something like Hereditary does.
Yeah.
Something like in talking about like something like Jordan Peele, who I really liked Get Out, but I thought Us was a disappointment. So we'll see what happens with Dope.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely.
I can't go into anything just blindly already saying like this is gonna be good. Like you want it to be good, but I have no problem coming out and saying like if I didn't like it,
I did. Yeah,
why?
No, for sure. And that's how I felt about like A24 is kind of like that. I had a friend of mine recently ask me if I saw the movie Lamb. I was like, why the fuck would I watch Lamb? Did you see the trailer? Did you see the fucking trailer?
I didn't even watch the trailer. I mean, the joke on Halloweenies is that I don't watch any horror movies or any movies made after 1997.
Yes.
But there's a little bit of truth to that these days, because between doing research for Halloweenie and doing research for Windy City Double Feature, I'm kind of locked into that world.
Yeah.
Because I need to watch all this old stuff.
No.
I couldn't believe that I actually did sit down for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. You're like Parker. Parker's probably watching Red Dawn tonight, right?
I'm either that or Paramedics, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, listen, Mike, thanks for doing the show. I don't want to take up more of your time. I had a whole bunch of things here, and I think we covered them all. And I'm so glad that we finally got to chat, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Have me back. Have me back soon.
Yeah. No,
I could just sit. I think I could just sit here and shoot the shit with you guys.
Listen,
I would
have punished you for another hour for sure, but I actually have to. I have to leave. But yeah, we'll definitely do it
next
again.
time. We'll do another hour in a couple of months.
Yeah,
I'd love to come back and talk with you guys. And thank you guys for listening to the show, because there's no bullshit. It wouldn't be worth doing if people weren't listening and telling us that they actually do enjoy it.
And this motherfucker, he's in a fucking band called the Romeros. I mean, how cool is that?
Used to be. But I did go out to dinner with my guitar player, and every year there's this festival, the International Pop Overthrow Festival, that comes through Chicago. And every year the guy asks us if we're ready to do a reunion.
Yeah.
And we figured out the math that next year is like the 20th anniversary of the first show or something.
Oh, wow.
So we shall see what happens.
All right. Last question then. Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn.
Okay. I go Day.
Easily. But Day has the more impressive special effects makeup.
Yes,
for sure.
Dawn has a better story, though. Day's biggest problem is that it's just doing what we've already seen before in Dawn and Night, but I don't think as well. But all three of them are good, and I didn't much care for Land of the Dead.
I fucking just like the Star Wars thing. I remember going to the theater 2005 and thinking like, okay, this is it, 10 years later. Like, and I just remember watching it, and somewhere along the way, like 30 minutes in, I was like, yeah, I just don't think this is gonna get better.
We can put a pin into this for another conversation.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I want to talk about this because something that I remembered from going to see Land of the Dead. So that was during the George Bush administration, right? And this is something that Joe Bob Briggs talks about a lot, about text versus subtext. And I like subtext. Text sometimes is aggravating when you're dealing with social commentary in horror movies because it's beating you over the head so much. And I remember walking out of Land of the Dead and saying, I really didn't like it. And I remember somebody saying to me, but what about the message about how they're going up north and how it relates to people moving out? I'm like, yeah, that's all well and good. But the movie just wasn't that great. Yeah. That's not a message does not a good movie make.
No.
And I wouldn't mind talking about that in depth with you guys.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah. So next one, to be continued. Mike, you're the man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
My pleasure.
Bye.